Imagine dropping $50 million on your dream wedding, then watching Kris Jenner hijack the guest list, Kylie upstage the bride in white, and Venice residents chant "No space for Bezos" outside. Welcome to the most expensive PR disaster money could buy. Jeff Bezos could have hosted a private garden ceremony in Washington or a quiet Greek island elopement and still made headlines. Instead, he rented Venice like a theme park. 8 palazzos, 2 150-year-old churches on standby for rain, and a fleet of mahogany water taxis bearing just Bezos's flags. The formal invitation promised an intimate weekend celebrating love and La Dolce Vita, but within hours, the Grand Canal looked like Fashion Week collided with Coachella. Paparazzi perched on balconies, drones zigzagging over gondolas, and security teams barking at tourists to move along, as if St. Mark's Square were Bezos's lobby. Guests arrived to find their hotel keycards embossed with custom cartoon versions of Jeff and Lauren, his bald head gleaming, swept like a shampoo commercial, and a schedule thicker than an Amazon Kindle. Sunrise yoga on the yacht helipad, spontaneous mask-making workshops, sponsored of course by Amazon Studios' new Venetian drama, and a black tie ball-themed galactic romance that required guests to don silver accents in honor of Blue Origin. Nothing says eternal devotion like a branding plug for your rocket company.
But the richest man in the world wasn't the only one staging a spectacle, because Kris Jenner came armed with a checklist longer than the bride's train. For Kris, the invitation wasn't about, it was a 3-day pitch meeting. Tech moguls in tuxedos, VC titans loosening bow ties at the bar, prime husband material for a family empire built on strategic unions. Days before Wheels Up, she reportedly hosted a wedding prep brunch in Calabasas, sliding printed headshots of Venice's richest attendees across the marble island like draft picks. One assistant was tasked with memorizing yacht deck plans. Another compiled a dossier titled "Eligible Billionaires Under 50." Kardashian planning is never ad hoc. It's a military operation with contouring. On arrival, Kris glided through the Palazzo Grassi foyer as if she'd bought naming rights, greeting old acquaintances. "Larry, darling, we must talk solar," while her daughters followed like satellites. She'd already negotiated +1s for Kylie, Kendall, and Khloe, despite the official cap of 150 guests. Her strategy unfolded in calculated stages. Afternoon yacht tour, Kris positions Kylie beside a crypto exchange founder whose net worth spiked during the lunch buffet. Masked ball that evening, Kendall gets paired at the seating chart with an AI health CEO Forbes just dubbed Dr. Billionaire. Khloe, still bruised from basketball heartbreaks, lands next to a Spanish shipping heir who arrives wearing driving loafers worth more than her last perfume endorsement. All accidental, Kris would insist. All documented by cameras Kris did not acknowledge, but definitely hired.
And then there was Tom Brady. Ever since tabloids teased a Brady-Kim spark, Kris has salivated at folding football GOAT genetics into the Kardashian share price. Venice was her second shot. Her entrance onto deck to intercept Tom's arrival. White linen shirt, blazer slung just so, single mingling. Unfortunately for Kris, Tom spent most of the cruise chatting with whores about a new streaming venture. A source claims Kris muttered, "Fine, he can date a corporate tax bill instead," before pivoting toward the CTO of a space tourism startup and asking, "How do you feel about family reality TV?" Meanwhile, her daughters played their parts. Kylie's off-white dress, just shy of bridal but bright enough to dazzle paparazzi flashes, became the evening's power meme. When critics called it tacky, Kris leaked that fashion houses accidentally double-book colors. Translation: any press is good press, especially if it pushes the bridal photos down Google's first page. Kendall arrived in liquid gold silk, and within seconds, fashion accounts stitched side-by-side shots labeling her the real golden goose. The masterstroke, however, happened at the private brunch aboard Bezos' yacht Paloro. Kris requested a table closer to the ocean breeze, which magically placed her between Lauren Sanchez and the CFO of an electric jet company rumored to be seeking celebrity investors. One deckhand overheard her say, "Lauren, you and Jeff inspire us. I might officiate Kylie's next wedding on a yacht this big." The subtext rang louder than the yacht's horn. Everything is content. Every wedding, a pilot episode.
And while Kris mapped billionaire DNA, Venice locals began hoisting protest banners across the canal.
A storm that's budget nor Kris's Rolodex could outmaneuver.
The first warning shot wasn't a headline. It was a handwritten banner strung between two leaning windows in Cannaregio. No space for Bezos, no space for billionaires. Similar signs bloomed on laundry lines all over the lagoon. Venice has been called a fragile jewel for years. Over-touristed, sinking, drowning in cruise ship exhaust. And locals decided one tech titan's floating carnival was the final straw. City police expected a few paper placards. They got a flash mob procession, side by side down the Grand Canal, slowing Bezos's VIP water taxis to a crawl while chanting La città non è in vendita. The city is not for sale. Street musicians swapped love songs for protest beats. Cafe owners flipped chalkboards from spritz menus to tax evasion jokes. Even the bell ringers at Santa Maria dei Miracoli pulled their midday peals 5 minutes early, timing a thunderous silence to coincide with the couple's vows. Bezos' security detail tried rerouting guests through smaller canals until protesters tipped off via telegram groups formed a human chain across a narrow footbridge. Guests in couture stilettos suddenly faced two options: step back or step over Venetians, shouting, "Pay your workers." Local politicians seized the moment. Councillor Giulia Rossi tweeted that Bezos' yacht Kourou had burned more diesel in a weekend than some island districts use in a year. UNESCO watchdogs, already threatening to add Venice to its endangered list, retweeted with a side-eye emoji. By nightfall, a regional environmental group filed a formal complaint alleging the yacht's thrusters stirred up sediment crucial to protecting the city's foundations. Bezos' team countered that Kourou ran on, quote, low-sulfur fuel and was, quote, fully compliant. But the optics were cooked. A climate-pledging billionaire churning a UNESCO lagoon for wedding selfies. Then came the water taxi fiasco. Italian tabloids hired a professional lip reader to analyze security footage of Kendall Jenner arguing with a dockmaster. She demanded a solo taxi. He insisted regulations required shared rides for night traffic. According to the lip reader, Kendall shot back, quote, "I'm not splitting an Uber with strangers." The dockmaster eventually waved her through, something unheard of before this weekend. Not even Venice's tourism board, usually eager for A-list exposure, could spin the uproar. A spokesperson admitted, off record, that the event's branding towers and drone-no-flies forced the city to reroute 3 Vaporetto lines, costing small merchants thousands in missed foot traffic. A wedding shouldn't feel like an occupying force, she sighed.
Meanwhile, Bezos and Lauren posed on the balcony beneath fireworks that illuminated St. Mark's Basilica. One weary protester captured the moment perfectly in a late-night interview. "They rented the city for $50 million. We gave them a refund, and an embarrassment would turn out to be contagious." Because while Venice was chanting in the streets, by the time Bezos' last sparkler fizzled over the lagoon, every glossy image his public relations army had teed up was buried under a pile of viral snark. What began as a modern fairy tale now read like a case study in billionaire hubris, and the aftershocks traveled far beyond Venice's sinking stones. On Wall Street, Amazon shareholders grumbled that a $50 million pageant, as warehouses braced for summer heat stroke headlines, felt Optics 101. A leaked Slack thread from Seattle engineers swapped gifs of gondolas ramming delivery vans. Prime Day morale event idea? Quipped one coder. Meanwhile, Blue Origin employees, many still pink-slipped after spring layoffs, watched their boss rain confetti over a UNESCO site and asked whether mission-driven culture stopped at the gangplank of a $500 million yacht.
Hollywood wasn't kinder. Studio executives who once begged Bezos for streaming cash now whispered that he'd crossed from austere mogul to Bond villain caricature. Agents joked that producing partners might attach no Venice clauses to Amazon Originals junkets. Even Lauren Sanchez's carefully cultivated girl boss in the cockpit brand took a dent. Fashion editors who had perched for exclusive bridal gown details instead filed sidebars titled "How Not to Stage a Luxury Wedding in a Heritage Site." Venice itself moved from protest to policy. City councilors, emboldened by global backing, tabled an emergency motion, limits on private drone fleets, and, most pointedly, a luxury event levy pegged to guest network. Italian media called it the prime tax, cheeky shorthand for making billionaires pay for public nuisance. UNESCO observers signaled support, hinting that the lagoon's endangered status could firm up if mega events continue to endanger cultural integrity. In short, Bezos' wedding handed preservationists the poster child they never dared hope for. Yet, the most telling fallout was intangible, a shift in public mood. For years, audiences devoured celebrity excess with ironic envy, eye-rolling but still double-tapping. This saga felt different, the tipping point where ostentation became grotesque, where a rosé selfie from a super yacht sparked not FOMO, but fatigue.
Bezos may return to his Washington compound, and Kris to Calabasas boardrooms, but the echo follows them. Loud, salty,
and oddly, because wealth can still buy fireworks, drone shows, and silver bow ties, but it can't purchase authenticity, community goodwill, or a moment that feels larger than one person's ego. And if the richest man alive can't secure that with a $50 million prom on water, what hope do the rest of Hollywood's status chasers have? This week, cash didn't conquer cringe. Bezos learned a city steeped in his dignity for drone footage. Kris Jenner discovered gate-crashing a billionaire bash still raises eyebrows. The lesson? Money magnifies character. It can't replace it. Whether you're sipping rosé on the Grand Canal or pleading the fifth in federal court, authenticity isn't for sale. Now I want to hear from you. Or did Bezos finally meet a price he couldn't pay? Are the Kardashians strategic geniuses or just serial scene stealers? Drop your take below, smash that subscribe button, and I'll see you next time with more stories where fortune meets fiasco.